Alright, let's see here what I need to do to go live. What do I need to do to go live? Hello, Paperface. Just seeing if I've gone live yet or not. It looks like I must have if so many people are jumping in. That's fantastic. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. I'm Chris. Just doing a little initial setup here, but nice to have you here. If you haven't joined before, my name is Chris. I run this YouTube channel, ComicTropes, where I talk about comic books. Every once in a while, I like to do a live stream, connect with everybody. Just do a little drawing to have something visual on screen, but mostly an excuse to tell stories and chat with everybody. So I'm just looking on my phone right here to confirm everything is working properly. It seems to be. Wow, great. That's awesome. Yeah, okay, cool, I'm live. Hey, just needed to be sure. Glad to see so many people here. I decided I just felt like sketching. I like sketching architecture and stuff like that. So I was looking through photos that I've taken of Tokyo. This time last year, I was just about to go over to Tokyo for one of my visits. I like that city quite a bit. I like that country quite a bit. I would strongly consider moving there if the opportunity was there. It's a place that I like traveling in general, and that's one that I've visited multiple times because I just find that I really like it. So it's a wide variety of things. So yeah, I wouldn't say this is a cityscape exactly, Captain Negativity. I was more just thinking of like sometimes at night, certain parts of Tokyo have really interesting nightlife. This is more sort of maybe Shinjuku if you're in Tokyo, that where there's just lots of alleys of bars. Actually, there's lots of districts or chomos within Tokyo that have some amazing nightlife and interesting bars. But this is just sort of like just sort of like one that you would see. It's maybe a little dingier than some that you would typically see. I've just sort of lightly sketched it out and not really doing anything special. Just felt like drawing and chatting with everybody. So yeah, traveling is definitely something that I'm a big fan of, and in particular, I'm a big fan of my trips to Tokyo, and I guess I was just feeling especially nostalgic. We just passed a holiday, Halloween. So I was thinking of that, and I was thinking of how Thanksgiving is coming up, and how I personally am not going to be traveling anywhere, and I'm not seeing anybody. I did put out candy just in case kids in my neighborhood decided to come around and beg for candy, but nobody really nobody came this year. I thought that we might still get some. I thought it would be light this year, but I thought we'd get some because I got a lot last year. So I was prepared. I put out some candy on the porch with a big sign that I made, saying help yourself. But no trick-or-treaters. And my family all lives in the East Coast, in the Boston area. And I'm just not willing to fly there at this point in time, and they don't expect me to, but so for Thanksgiving coming up, I'm definitely going to be missing my family. But it just got me thinking about travel in general, so I was like, yeah, oh man, I miss Tokyo. I miss Tokyo a lot. I'm going to draw it. Maybe next time I'll draw Boston. Did I watch any horror movies on Halloween? I didn't watch any on Halloween night. I was working that day, but I did help a customer that day whose name was John Carpenter. You can't make that up. I love it. One of my favorite horror film directors, and I got to help a guy with that name on Halloween. He was not the famous director, of course, but to me that was fun. Didn't really mean anything to anyone else. I was like, oh my god, look at this. I'm helping a guy named John Carpenter. And a bunch of, like, you know, my coworkers who are younger and stuff are like, yeah? I was like, yeah! Oh, that's so awesome! The Thing? And they're like, oh. Oh, well. I'm definitely a horror movie nut, so I didn't get to watch nearly enough horror movies this year. Just working a lot. But that's okay. Not much else to do, so might as well just sort of work and make a lot of money. Midnight Diner. Okay, I'll check that out, Diego. Thanks. That sounds like a good suggestion. Thanks for all the kind comments. And I did catch the Mandalorian Season 2 premiere. I won't really talk about it because I don't want to potentially spoil it for anyone. All I can say is that I personally like it quite a bit. And it's just awesome to have any entertainment right now, but certainly a show like that is pretty exciting. Yeah, I loved it. Can't wait to see where they go this season, but I really don't want to talk about it in the chat just in case anyone maybe doesn't have Disney Plus yet and is planning on getting it at some point. I would recommend it. I think it's a pretty great show. Really made me fall in love with Star Wars all over again. Which, no small feat, because personally, I'm sorry, I just did not like that final movie. What was it? Rise of Skywalker. Couldn't get into that. Did I hear about Barker and his Hellraiser return to HBO? I did not. Hellraiser is coming back? There's a lot of bad Hellraiser movies, but Clive Barker didn't have anything to do with those, really. There's a lot of bad ones. I was thinking, I don't really have necessarily the time to this, but personally I have been thinking that if I can get to the point where I have a little extra bandwidth, something I would really like to do is start I'll call it a podcast, but I'd probably put it on YouTube as well, called Sequelitis, where I review every movie in franchises. So I'm talking Godzilla, James Bond, Saw, Police Academy, Hellraiser, and some of these movies that have tons of sequels, some of them can get quite bad. Something like James Bond or Godzilla has a very high quality bar compared to some of these other things, but anything that basically maybe has more than, we'll say more than three movies would be like fair game for me to sort of like break down each one so that I can start like comparing and contrasting them. I love film, and I think that would be a lot of fun to do a show like that. Thanks for all the kind words. I did not sell John Carpenter a haunted 1950s car, no, but that's a good idea. Trying to think. So we're just past Halloween. It's got me thinking, like, what were some of your best costumes ever? I would say for me, I've got a few that I think I haven't always dressed up for Halloween, at least not as an adult. I haven't gone to a Halloween party every year or anything. So my sister's great at coming up with really elaborate costumes. She's great at it. But Chrissy once made me a Fifth Doctor from Doctor Who costume that I think is quite good. Actually, I did wear it in an episode very, very briefly, but I did an episode on some Doctor Who comics, and I wear it in that. But what else? And so that was one I wore one year, and I'm kind of proud of that one. That was a good one. One time when I was a real little kid, I'm talking before even kindergarten, my mom made me this amazing robot costume that looks, in a way, a little bit like, Infotron. At least that's got that sort of 1950s sensibility to it. A big silver box with dials and stuff on his chest. So that was probably cool. Wow, people are saying they've got like a Geralt costume from The Witcher. John McClane, that's cool. You just took your shoes off. Okay. Two-Face or The Crow, badass. I'd love to talk about The Crow. I really, really wanted to do The Crow this year for October, sort of a horror comic. I was just too busy, folks. But while I haven't watched it, Cartoonist Kayfabe did discuss it, so they had like a similar idea. So maybe their episode is at least something. Like it's something I wanted to do, but I just didn't have time. What else? I can't think of any other really memorable costumes. I think like one year I went to like a party and I might have dressed up like one of the teachers at Hogwarts in Slytherin, because I know I had like an elaborate Slytherin cloak, and I think if I remember right, I slicked my hair back, wore shirt and tie and stuff like that. Do I have a favorite horror comic? Yeah, I would say Lock and Key is probably my favorite that classifies as horror. I really like that book a lot. I also, within the realm of horror, I like Junji Ito. I like Hellboy, I think can be classified as a bit of horror. Also superhero, but horror. I've talked in my previous episodes about a lot of the stuff I like. Tales from the Crypt. I've tried to discuss some of the stuff I really, really love. So, yeah. Where did I put my ruler? I really could use my ruler tonight, and I don't think I know where I put it. Awesome. What else? Yeah, kind of Snape, but not exactly. You're awesome, and we understand this YouTube channel is a part-time gig. I tried to do as much as I can here, and obviously for many years I was able to do it weekly. If you watched my last episode, I opened up a little bit about behind the scenes. I'm definitely having a tough time with depression, a little bit of burnout. I've got tons of ideas of what I want to do with ComicTropes. I just haven't been able to always motivate myself properly. I'm trying though. I'm not giving up. Tonight I worked very hard on an upcoming episode that'll be up pretty soon. Yeah, Basket Full of Heads was great. Thank you so much for this super chat. Steve Sorensen very kindly donated $5 and says, I was Wonder Woman for Halloween and I won $200 in several contests. I'll post it in the Facebook group. Please do. That sounds very impressive. That's awesome. Any tips for drawing cities? Don't fake too much of it. Like, really look at the cities before you decide to draw it, and then I would say rulers are your friend. And I say that as I realize I don't know where I put mine. I could really... Sorry, I just dropped some pens. I could really use it to keep some of these lines straight. I don't have it, so you know what? I'm just going to wing it because this is just for fun. But if I had it, I'd be straightening out a lot of these lines to make the perspective better. Who is my favorite character to draw? I don't know if I necessarily have one. I like drawing Hellboy. Do you think that the Bone animated series will come out on Netflix? Yeah, probably. Probably I do think that. You need to find your ruler. Well, I do and I don't, because it's not like this has to be perfect. I'll probably get frustrated that I get some lines not quite straight, but that's okay. That's okay. I also intentionally sort of helped myself when I was sketching this out by I sort of roughly know my vanishing point and my horizon line, but I covered some of the street edges with bits of trash and boxes so that I could sort of fake it a little. Do I like David Aja? Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. Of course. That sounded to me like it's been too many years, so I don't remember the guy's name, but if you've ever seen the documentary American Movie, that thing is just fascinating and pretty hilarious. And there's a guy who's like, oh, Mark just reached out to me and said, will you be in my movie? And I said, of course I will. There's so many lines in that movie that I remember and I still use, if it's raining, pretty nice day if it doesn't rain. No, I never got back to the season of Lock and Key on Netflix. I didn't love the first episode, but I am curious because I do love the comics. So I'll if I can find the time, I'll get to it again. Sweet Tooth: The Return. Sweet Tooth is in Jeff Lemire with the the boy with the antlers and everything. I didn't realize that there was a sequel coming out. That's something I didn't know. The Coven guy, exactly. Mark Borchardt, Mark and Mike. Hey, Mike, you gonna help me with this? Oh, yeah, I can do that. All right, man, because, we got to be serious about this, man. This ain't time for joking around, man. I know. I haven't read any of Joe Hill's novels, but I liked his comics, and I saw the movie version of Horns, so I probably should read one of his novels someday. I'd probably enjoy it. I got the chance to go to the movies once this year, and it was the re-release of Akira in 4K. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I was very happy that last year when I was in Japan, I got to make an episode about Akira, and I filmed it in Japan at the YouTube studios. I was really proud of that episode. I put a lot of research in because Akira is such a big, dense story, and trying to boil that down to a 20-minute episode is a lot of work. Very, very proud of that episode. Didn't get that many views, but I personally am proud of it. Wow, Steve, a second super chat. You definitely don't have to do that, but thank you very, very, very much. I want to say you were one of the favorite channels on YouTube. Hope you can buy a ruler with this $5. Posting my costuming group. That's great. They had a great spot in a New Line Friday the 13th slasher doc. Yeah, I think I watched that. Was that Crystal Lake Memories? I think I saw that. Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? The Olympics getting canceled and everything? That is crazy. All right, what am I doing here? Let's see. I'm going to do a sort of a rough billboardy type of sign here. I'm subscribed to this channel and still don't know why, Chris. Still don't know why I go to Japan? I go there because I love it. I don't know. If, this won't happen, but if this channel took off and I was able to make a living doing YouTube so that I could, live anywhere, I personally would like to try to move to Japan for a couple years and live there. My Japanese isn't very good at all. I just can get by with a few phrases and stuff right now. But every day I sort of study their alphabets and use Duolingo. Someday I hope I can take some time to take some class. But immersion is the best teacher in my opinion. When I go there, I end up picking stuff up pretty quickly. That's just something I'd like to do. Maybe not permanently, but live there for a few years, keep doing what I'm doing now. That's sort of the daydream. Do I like Darwin Cook? Yeah, I love Darwin Cook. And I have been thinking for quite a long time about what I would want to do for an episode about him. I could talk forever about either his Parker adaptations or New Frontier. I got to meet him once. It was a real privilege. Really nice guy. We had a great conversation. I miss him. I miss him a lot. I think Darwin Cook was supremely talented, a real benefit to the industry. I think he did some really fantastic stuff in his time in comics and animation. And I just wish he was still here. So I'm definitely at some point going to do an episode on him. There's no question in my mind about that. It's just sometimes when I talk about creators that I really admire, I want to spend. It's not always that I need to spend extra time. It's that I want to make sure that I'm getting my thoughts down correctly because I don't want to get it wrong. I'm always interested in the subject that I talk about, but sometimes it's really when it's somebody that I'm a fan of. It's it's harder for me because I want to get it right. I feel I put a lot of pressure on myself to get my thoughts out, and it's never quite right, but that's all right. I just read New Frontier, and now I'm Cook mad. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of great stuff he did, from Catwoman to New Frontier to his Parker adaptations. Do I have a favorite anime series? Favorite series. If we're not talking movies, we're just talking like, a movie, a TV show type thing, I would say either FLCL, Furikuri, or Cowboy Bebop. One of those two is going to be my favorite. Yeah, I've definitely read Tony and Millionaire's Mackies. He's great. Do I like the Three Jokers comic that recently ended? The short answer is no. I really didn't. It's hard to say let down, because it's not like I really went in with any expectations there. I have to admit, I'm not really a big fan of Jeff Johns. But, it got so much hype that I was like, well, I'll read it and see if it lives up to that, or if it's worthwhile. And I made an episode for my patrons where I review a bunch of it, and the short answer is no. I was really let down. I thought it was a waste of time. It was probably the worst thing that I read from mainstream comics in 2020. Good art. I'm not gonna slag the whole thing. There's good parts. The artwork is good. But I got nothing out of it. I was like, this could maybe have been an interesting single issue of the serialized comic, but it certainly didn't deserve hype as an event. It was pointless, in my opinion. Just pointless. Didn't do anything really. Didn't change anything. Didn't give me a new understanding of the characters in any big significant way. That I don't know. I just was really. I was like, this is dull. This is dull. And then the best thing that I've read from the big two this year, though, was also from DC, and I would say that was Wonder Woman Dead Earth. That was also a Black Label comic by Daniel Warren Johnson, and I think that thing had to have been the best thing from mainstream comics that I read this year. That thing was incredible. What opinion on Joe Duffy? Boy, I haven't really read any of Joe's stuff since the 80s, so my memory's just sort of fuzzy. I can't think of a strong opinion on Joe Duffy right now. As far as my opinion on The Crow, I loved the original. It's a revenge story with a little bit of a supernatural twist. The reason I think it works was it felt very personal. It really felt like that was coming from a very real, dark place from James O'Barr. I think that's what makes it interesting. And then the movie with Brandon Lee similarly, benefits from some unfortunate real life tragedy. I mean, the character and what happened to the actor really merges in a very morbid, creepy way that nevertheless is to the film's benefit because it's just so entwined. Yeah, just really really creepy though. But I like The Crow. It comes from, I saw it when I was young enough that it was like, I thought anything like dark and edgy was cool, and that felt darker and edgier than like even like Wolverine or the Punisher. They were still like superheroes that would like sometimes make jokes with Spider-Man or something. And while I liked that, I was like, The Crow is in black and white and he's dressed in all goth gear and stuff. So it felt like more cartoonist kayfabe would call it outlaw, I think. And I think that's a good description now that I'm thinking of it. That felt outlaw or dangerous. Too late for me to stay for the stream. Night all. Yeah, I know it's late, but thank you so much for the super chat. That means so much to me. I really, really appreciate it. What's my favorite Christmas movie? Oh, my favorite Christmas. Oh, you know what? Like, my favorite Christmas movie is a classic. It's a Wonderful Life. That movie totally works for me. Definitely tugs on my heartstrings. I love. What's the actor's name? Jimmy. Jimmy. I can't think of his last name. Can't think of it. What else was I going to talk about tonight? Could tell real life stories, I suppose. I could tell stories of meeting celebrities. I could try to tell a funny story. What should I tell? Jimmy Stewart. You want the moon, Mary? Why, just throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Pull it right down on old man Potter's head. That mean old son of a bitch. Oh, that Potter, he's a real cantankerous old man. Why, I'd love to throw him on some train tracks and light him afire. Any good Halloween stories? I don't know if I've got any good Halloween stories specifically. Let me think for a minute. I feel like there's like a college party on like the edge of my memory that I'm not thinking of properly, that like a party that went awry, but it's not exactly coming to me. What's my favorite food? Honestly, steak. But I'll tell you about my least favorite foods in a moment. That would be a good story. Let me just acknowledge these super chats. Mandela Butterfly. What do you think of comic book characters running for president like Captain America or Lex Luthor? I think it can definitely be fun and interesting. I think that the trick is the real world has to be fairly stable for you to get away with that. Because if it's in any way in political upheaval, it seems preposterous to imagine a fictional character in charge, because you can't really imagine how the world is like it is now, but somehow in their world. Okay, let me see. Green Machine, this art would be perfect as a city pop album. Well, thank you. Let me know what you think of my costume. When I'm done with the live stream, I'll definitely check out the group and take a look. Definitely will take a look. Saw you wear a Hot Rod shirt. Do you still like wrestling? I guess I like wrestling. I don't really watch it regularly. I haven't for quite a long time. But whenever it was pre-COVID and stuff, my friend Craig would always have parties for things like the Royal Rumble and stuff. So I would sort of just keep just a little bit connected to what's going on in pro wrestling. And I do like it, but I don't watch it regularly anymore. The era that I was most into it was the Attitude Era, when I was a big fan of Mankind, Chris Jericho, The Rock, the Hardys. Those were some of my favorites. I'm not working on anything particular, just doodling, really. Just doodling for fun. What do I think of the Nick Cage Ghost Rider movie? I think I did a commentary track for that. Oh, it was on Patreon. That's right. It was on Patreon. Sometimes I do commentary tracks for my patrons. So if you're curious, all I can say is consider joining Patreon, and you can listen to me do an entire commentary track on it. That was fun. There was plenty to talk about. I was going to talk about some of my least favorite foods. I wouldn't consider myself the most adventurous eater, but I do try to force myself to try new things. On this show, you saw me try escargot. Was not a fan of that. I've gone to, parties where I've tried like cow tongue. Taste wasn't so bad, but the texture really freaked me out. Thank you very much for that donation, Steve. That's super generous. Oh, they're in AEW? Got it. Last time I went to Hong Kong was probably about 2 years ago now. And when I was there, I was meeting a friend of mine, Martin, who lives there now. And Martin took me to an authentic dim sum restaurant. Wait, was it 2 years ago? You know what? Actually, now that I think of it, I think this time that I'm thinking of was 4 years ago when I was in Hong Kong. It wasn't 2 years ago. It was, like, I was in Hong Kong 2 years ago, but the story I'm thinking of was from 4 years ago. Doesn't really matter. So I'm there, and grateful to be taken to, like, an authentic hole-in-the-wall type restaurant, and he could order for us in Chinese because they did not get tourists at this place, so no English was spoken, even though it's Hong Kong, and English is still pretty well spoken everywhere there, but not here. Among some of the things I had that night was abalone. It's a seafood. Did not care for that at all, but the worst was pigeon. They just cook a whole pigeon, and then they just chop it up. They take off the feathers, they cook the whole thing, but they cook the whole thing. And so I was given the head. It still has its beak and its like eyes and stuff, and you're like, eat it. And I was like, eating pigeon is already a bit of a stretch for me. I think of it as like a rat. But now you're telling me that I got to eat this head that still looks like a head? Okay, give me a moment to psych myself up. Okay. And, I bit into it, and I ate it. It was very stringy. I didn't feel like there was a strong flavor to it. It wasn't like a bad texture. It wasn't a bad taste, but it wasn't anything special. And I couldn't help but notice that I was holding a severed head in my hand and was like, thanks. Was not a fan of it. Not a fan of it. Yeah, Winderia. I haven't felt like going back to Hong Kong because of how much unrest there is there right now. I like Hong Kong. I just don't feel like I'd want to go there right now. Yeah, the eyes were... I don't know if it was like it had its eyes. It had like eye sockets. Let me put it like that. It at least had eye sockets. You were looking at a face. The beak was there. You could see the face. It was just like they chopped it up into pieces. Here's the legs. Here's the wings. Here's the breast. And here's the head. And yeah. Pigeons are flying rats. Yeah. I would probably say that was just my least favorite thing, but mostly because of the psychological element behind it, going like, what am I eating here? I've had like bugs like crickets and stuff before. Not that bad. I had octopus once. Actually tasted good, but I kind of like felt weird about it because I felt like, isn't there something about like octopus are really smart? And then I read up on them afterwards, and like, yeah, octopus are really, really smart and possibly even self-aware, so I sort of felt I just don't feel comfortable eating that one. I prefer my food faceless. Me too. I would prefer to like live in ignorance, eat what tastes good and not have to necessarily think about the process behind it. Maybe that's ignorant of me, but that's what I like. To not have to think about what I'm eating. I think it's one of the benefits of modern society. Let's see. I think that there were some other good questions in there. So let me see what else, if anything. I love calamari. Yeah, like I said, it did taste pretty good. I just had a psychological thing about some of this. Octopi and squids are incredibly smart. Yeah. No, nobody's asked me about Sean Connery yet that I caught. I'll tell you, that morning when I saw the news that Sean Connery had passed away, freaked me out. I am not a very what kind of a person would I say? Like, I'm skeptical, okay? Like, I don't believe in much in the way of like supernatural or anything like that. I think it's cool as a story telling device. I just don't believe in things like ghosts or monsters and stuff like that. But that night, the previous night to Sean Connery's passing, I had a dream that I met him. And it's probably because I've been like rewatching some James Bond lately. That was a coincidence. But anyway, I was dreaming about him and I met him. And then first thing when I wake up, I look on social media and I'm seeing his name appear a bunch, and I was like, uh-oh. And I look it up, and yeah, unfortunately, he'd passed away. You know, good long life, 90 years. We should all be so lucky as to pass away in our homes in bed with our loved ones surrounding us. You know, that's I think the ideal that we would all like. But it definitely was a little freaky for me to sort of wake up to that news like right after having like had him in my dream. I was like, yeah. It doesn't feel as weird now that a few days have passed, but in the moment, it felt quite strange. Read anything good lately? I'm trying to think of what I've read lately that I really liked. Well, I've just started Kent State by Durf Backdurf, about the real life, you know, what do you call them? Riots and police shootings. Kent State University. Pretty heavy stuff, but really, really well done. So that's I haven't finished it yet, but I'm positive it's not going to let me down at this point. Like, what an interesting way to tell the story. Psychic Chris. Yeah, I would say that I've never really experienced anything that would like make me believe in things like an afterlife or aliens or anything like that. But that doesn't mean that I don't have experiences that you can't really explain and make you think. And that's kind of fun, you know? It's fun to think about, like, well, what could this have been? And, you know, what if? I like that. And so one time, Chrissy and I were driving out to a wedding. Hold on, let me read the super chat. Really enjoy the doodle and freewheeling convo. Do you have a favorite Mad Magazine artist? Oh, geez, there's so many good ones. Probably Jack Davis. No, you know what? I'm sorry. Jack Davis is awesome. What am I thinking? I'm a huge fan of Sergio Aragonés. So Sergio Aragonés would be my personal favorite in Mad Magazine. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So we were driving out to Kentucky from the D.C. area. We were going to Tony Moore's wedding. Yeah. He's, you know, the guy that was the original artist on Walking Dead. He's done Ghost Rider and Exterminators and Deadpool. Done lots of great stuff. He's a great artist. We were going to his wedding. So we're driving. It was at night, and we're driving out sort of, you know, in the country area, so it was like super clear skies. Beautiful. You could see like all the stars. Really, really bright. And we see a light moving across the sky overhead. Kind of looks a little bit like, it was pretty bright, not like small, like a pinprick, but bright like a floodlight on a helicopter type bright. Except it wasn't really aimed at anything, but a big bright light. And I'm like, you see that? And Chrissy's like, yeah. And I go, I just can't tell what that is, because it's moving too fast, I think, to be a helicopter. And she's like, maybe, I don't know. And we're watching it, and it would every once in a while sort of like change direction. We'd see it like all of a sudden like go in front of us, and then it would like take almost a 90-degree turn, and we're like, good Lord, what is that? You know, it was just moving across the sky. I think we actually pulled aside. I think we actually pulled over because we were like, what is that? And we just sort of watched it move across the sky in a couple different directions. And then like just sort of it faded away eventually. And we were like, I don't know what that could have been. You know, like we were just like watching it, like legit just trying to figure it out. And I'm sure most people would say like, oh, that was a spaceship, you know, that was a UFO. And I just don't really believe that. So but I don't know what it could have been. I still don't know what it could have been. It was pretty clear. We both watched it, you know, we both took our time, and we just couldn't figure it out. So that's definitely a unique experience that I'll remember, because I still like would wonder what could that have been that we were watching. You know, did we just have a weird perspective on things? I don't know. Maybe we were just tired and we both imagined too much of it. Beats me. It was a cool story. Witnessing Kent State is what led Mark Mothersbaugh to start Devo? I didn't know that. That's interesting. Mark Mothersbaugh has turned into an interesting composer these days. I really like what he did with Thor Ragnarok. That was a cool soundtrack. Maybe it was a drone. Maybe, but this was definitely a while back at this point. You know, like we're going back like about at least 10 years, probably more. Did I have a dream that there would be a season 8 of Venture Brothers? I had a dream that I became a billionaire. I had a dream that all of you became millionaires. What the? My dreams are coming true? Supposedly, what do you call it? Adult Swim has said that they want to, like, find a way to continue the story. So maybe they'll, like, give funding to, like, do, like, a couple specials or something to wrap up the story. I hope. Be very, very sad if Venture Brothers just sort of fades away without an ending. But on the other hand, it's like I've been waiting for that to like wrap up for so long that it's like, come on. It was an angel? Oh yeah, maybe it was an angel. Do I like Dr. Slump by Akira Toriyama? Never read it, sorry. I'm aware of who Toriyama is, but I've never read anything by him. It's just sort of a, what do you call that? Like a blind spot in my pop culture knowledge. Just haven't read it. Where'd I learn to draw? Nowhere really. Just always doodling. Always doodling. Whenever I can, I'll sign up for a life drawing class or go to, like, you know, a Dr. Sketchies, something like that. Yeah, just always sort of trying. Oh, I know what I should tell everybody. I worked on a comic book that's coming out this month. I did the lettering for it. So I didn't draw it, I didn't write it, but I was hired to be the letterer. It's called Lauxor, Lauxor. It's about transforming robots. It's got a mystery. It's pretty funny. I think that the artwork is great. I think that the story's really different and funny and interesting. It's being published by Marcosia. So you can ask your comic book store to order that if you're interested. But I lettered that comic. It's about, I'm trying to think, probably about like 60 to 70 pages, maybe a little more. Anyway, maybe more. Is the 90s Devil Dragon franchise worth a reboot? Nah. What's my favorite font? I don't know if I really have one. A favorite font? That's an interesting question. I just I can't think of something that I would call my favorite font. If I think of one, I'll pipe up, because it's a good question. Are you willing to do more lettering in the future? If the price is right. You know, that was a paid job, so I was like, yeah, you know, the pay was good, so I was happy to do it, and I was lucky that it was a good project. You know, I'll be honest, I shouldn't say I was lucky. I probably wouldn't have taken it if it wasn't a good project, because I'm not hurting for extra money. But it looked like an interesting, fun sort of story. So I was like, yeah, this sounds like something worth my time. I'm glad I did it. It was interesting. I like trying to know how to do every aspect of a comic, even if I don't become, some sort of famous artist or writer or anything like that. I've done every job, from printing and pre-flight to, writing and drawing and coloring and lettering, editing. I like it all. I want to know it all. Thank you very much for the super chat, A.A.S. Squith. AA Squith 25. I don't know how to pronounce that, but thank you very much. Who's my favorite Batman artist? That's a challenging question. The first one that pops into my head is somebody that I grew up really liking because he was the artist on the monthly comic, and I went back and looked at his stuff from before I was reading comics, and I really like him, and that's Jim Aparo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but I really do like his Batman art. But there's been so many great artists that have covered Batman that's a very challenging question. But for now, I'll stick with that. That's the first one that popped in my head, and go with your gut, right? Any thoughts of Sandman? Yeah, I'll probably cover Sandman at some point. That's a pretty huge comic that I should address at some point. I have not seen the Swamp Thing TV show. I heard good things about it. It's too bad that they ended up having, the budgetary snafu, all that miscommunication. But anyway, I heard good things. I like the guy who played Swamp Thing, stuntman actor named Derek Mears. I like him, man. He also famously played Jason Voorhees in the last Friday the 13th movie. And he's been in Pirates of the Caribbean and I think Men in Black. I discovered him because I love Channel 101, which was established by comic book creators Rob Schrab and Dan Harmon. And who am I thinking? Derek would often appear in some pretty funny shows on Channel 101 before I ever saw him popping up in mainstream movies. So that was always cool to see people sort of take off. I have read the Liefeld G.I. Joe stuff. God help me, but I love G.I. Joe, and when I was a kid, I liked Liefeld. I grew up and I was sort of I'm not such a big fan of this artwork anymore, but I get why it was exciting as when I was a kid and didn't really understand the same sort of rules of anatomy and storytelling and stuff like that. There's a lot of energy to his work. I'm trying to give him credit where it's due. There is energy. So I was like, I have to read this. I have to read his take on G.I. Joe, and it is a mess. Do you use one of those lettering rulers? No, I letter by computer, so I'm not doing it by hand. I do it with computers, with Illustrator. I like Adobe Illustrator. Headlopper is cool. I've read Headlopper. That's very good. Yacht Rock, exactly, Simon Adkins. One of the best shows to have come out of Channel 101. But yeah, in the early days, it was stuff like Computer Man and Laser Fart and stuff like that, and Twigger's Holiday. All that mattered to me was I was getting to see more stuff by the guys that made Scud. And I discovered a lot of great talent along the way. I became a huge fan of guys like Abed Gaith, Ryan Ridley, and of course Justin Roiland. So when Justin and Ryan started a podcast called Grandma's Virginity, I was like, oh, I'm in. I got to listen to this. And that was one of my all-time favorite podcasts. I think they only made about 25 episodes before Justin sort of got too busy with Rick and Morty. But when that was going on, I interviewed each of them on my podcast, so I got to know them, and I also was at the same time contributing episode artwork for the Grandma's Virginity podcast. So if you go look that up, I did 3 or 4 of the 25 episodes I did the artwork for, and yeah, it's pretty cool seeing Justin just take off with Rick and Morty. That was always his sensibility, and That shows I'm a big fan. So that's been awesome to see that take off. Should Wizard Magazine ever return? Probably not. There were talented people that worked there. There were. And I read it for a long time and enjoyed it. I gave up on it before it died, but it definitely had its positives. It's just that, like, as time went on, they really fell behind the times in terms of, like, all of a sudden, they couldn't break the news. The internet always got to it faster, and their website was never that great, although it did have some good forums at first, and that's where I met guys like Robert Kirkman for the first time. But like the people like running it, like Gareb Shamus, was not a great person. He just, yeah, well, maybe that deserves its own episode someday. We'll see. But he's not the best person in the world, in my opinion. We'll see. Maybe I'm too biased. I don't know. What else is being asked? Could I do an episode on Kelly Jones? Maybe. I can't stick around, but wanted to say, dude, you're an amazing artist. Oh, that's very kind of you, Rebecca. You're a real jack of all trades for knowing so much about comics and also being able to draw them. I just love comics, so it's just what I like. Have I always been an inker? I don't consider myself a great inker, to be honest. That's part of why I do this, is I want to be better as an inker. If I can just sit down and have just time with a pencil, I can make a very detailed piece of artwork. But when it comes to inking, I think I've got a lot to learn. Let's see. Justin has been through a lot. What do you mean? What has he been through that I'm not thinking of? Only got to meet him in person once, but I like Justin. Did I read Empire? No, I don't really usually read too much in terms of event comics. I did happen to read the 4-issue Empire, what would you call it, like a tie-in for X-Men. It was okay. It was kind of funny, actually. Basically Plants versus Zombies. I think that they even gave that title to one of their issues, because they have the Kotati aliens that are plant-based life versus zombies, mutant zombies. So that was good. I did know it was Steve Ditko's birthday today. Very grateful for everything Steve Ditko gave us, from Doctor Strange and Spider-Man to The Question, Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, everything. He's one of the greats. One of the greats. If you had a dream team of any comic creators for a limited run, who would you pair up and on which book? Oof, I'd just be picking all sorts of my favorites for ages. That's a fun question, but it would take me ages to read it. I haven't read Monstrous yet, but I do own the first trade. I still need to get around to reading that. There is a Mr. A trade. There is. From whoever the guy is that was publishing it for him, he put together... Well... I don't know if it's still available. I say that like with all this confidence, but you know what? Like maybe the whole thing isn't available. So maybe I'm wrong. I like the way you're inking that head of hair. That's nice of you. I wish that someday I'll get a better camera here so that like this is a little more crisp and you can see the detail. What do you think of the artwork of Jim Steranko? I'll be honest. Some of it is very, very good. I don't like him as a person. He's so far to the right, it's crazy. But he has done some good artwork. Someday I'll do an episode about his adaptation of the Sean Connery movie Outland, which he did for Heavy Metal magazine, and has never been collected as a trade anywhere. But the artwork is very good, and took me quite a while, but I have got the full story. So someday I will do an episode about that. It's interesting. He's a talented artist, and as a person, like we just couldn't see apart further. You know, we're just such different people. Have I read the works of any new publishers like Vault or Aftershock? Yeah. I've been trying anyway, like to look at stuff like Vault, Aftershock. Actually, have I read anything? I haven't read anything by Aftershock. Actually, I don't know Aftershock, but Vault is interesting, and so is TKO. Vault and TKO are coming up with some interesting stuff for sure. Oh yeah, I voted a while ago. I live in Washington State, and it's great. Like they proactively send you your ballot like about a month early, and you can drop it off. Like I had a ballot place that I could drop it off at, like about like a mile away. It was great. I wish every state it was that easy to vote. It was amazing. I'm very privileged to have been able to do it that way. Favorite Sean Connery movie? That is a tough question, honestly, because he's been in so many things that I like. Favorite movie that he's in? I'm a huge James Bond fan, but I think I still enjoyed Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade a little bit more than his James Bond movies, maybe. But I also really liked him in The Untouchables. Damn, it's great. Baby Teeth. Oh, okay. I do like Donny Cates, so that's interesting to know. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that somebody started reading Criminal because of my video. That's one of my all-time favorite comics. I love Criminal, so that's really, really awesome to hear that you gave it a try and that you enjoy it. Like that's really great to hear. So I'll watch Zardoz. Zardoz is definitely among the weirder movies that he's made, but that's okay. But that's okay. Are you going to draw a comic about your experience eating pigeon head? No, probably not. Yeah, I like Adam Hughes' work quite a bit. I don't know who couldn't like it. He's supremely talented. I wish he'd still do interior panel-to-panel pages. That's something I'd love to see by him. I think he only does covers now. I can't remember the last time I saw him do interior work. Vaughn, thank you so much for the super chat. Was wondering about your thoughts on Bane and wanted to know if you have any favorite Bane stories. New to comics, but he's the reason why. Yeah, I actually like Bane. I think that he's one of the best sort of modern villains that they've come up with for Batman, because I like that he's so smart and cunning, and I think that, like, you know, his initial story arc is one of his best, and I think another really good one was and I might be remembering the name of this arc incorrectly, but I think it was called Son of the Demon, where he tries to become the heir for Ra's al Ghul. They at least work together. It's probably back in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s, but probably the 90s. Yeah, Pope was fantastic. I'm interested in Twilight because of Garcia Lopez's artwork. Should I read it? I think so. If you like Garcia Lopez, then I definitely don't think you would be disappointed at all. It's beautiful artwork. It really is. So yeah, I definitely would encourage you to pick it up if you're at all curious. I don't think you'd be disappointed. Will I ever do an episode on the Hawk and Dove comic drawn by Liefeld? Maybe. I mean, it would be interesting to at least sort of address his sort of earliest work, his origins, so it's possible. But I've also already done 2 episodes on Liefeld where I sort of beat him up, so, you know, I just don't want to go to the same well too many times, make people think that that's what my channel is if they, like, just they're discovering it for the first time. No, Ellis Krieger, I don't think if he was Indy's dad, it would have saved Crystal Skull. I don't think so. Favorite pizza topping? I'm simple. Pepperoni. I've heard some people say that they don't like pepperoni, but I like pepperoni. And it's a classic. Jazzy, thank you so much. That's really, really generous. I sincerely appreciate the super chats. It's never expected or asked for, but trust me, it's appreciated. Trust me. Has there ever been much written about Batman's intellectual training, development of detective skills? You know, there has been. Not as much as there should be, though, probably. I'm trying to think if there was ever a great arc about that. There was an interesting arc. It might have been written by John Byrne, actually. I'm trying to remember. Where somebody's going around killing each of Batman's mentors. That was interesting. And there's a good story arc where he meets Henry Ducard and learns a lot from him. Is Zenescope Comics worth reading for anything in a way of story or just garbage for fan service? I don't know. Can't think of anything by Zenescope I've ever read, so I can't really offer you an honest opinion. When did the funny ComicTropes man do art? And since when was it so pretty? Well, I don't know about that, but thank you. Favorite manga series? For me, it's Old Boy and Lone Wolf and Cub. Well, those are great. I would say my favorite is Akira, having thought about it. But I'm a huge fan of Naoki Urasawa. And what was I thinking of? Like, I like Pluto. I like 20th Century Boys. Probably my favorite is Monster. That's a really great manga series. Monster. That stands out as one of my favorites for sure. For sure. Interesting question. And a lot to choose from, so that makes it tricky. But then again, not all of it has been translated, so sometimes it's hard to know about it all. Pluto was great. Reading Monster now. Good. You'll enjoy it. That's great. Do I like Death Note? Yeah, Death Note was pretty good. Maybe a little long, the manga, maybe. I feel like there's a part where it sort of slows itself down a little too much. But I do like it. I think it's a fascinating game of cat and mouse. I do like the artwork quite a bit, actually. Quite a bit. I think my favorite thing by those two creators was they followed it up with this series called Bakuman, which is about two people that want to become a manga artist and writer. And it's all about their journey to become the best. It's great. It's really enjoyable. It's funny. It's interesting if you're into comics, which I think all of us are. It's epic. It'll really make you appreciate what hard work goes into making comics. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's awesome. Would you be the artist of your own comic? No, I think I'm a little too slow. Skater Pond lives in Kanagawa. Nice. I'm jealous. I would really like to live in Japan. I would really like to. I have not read Parasite. Didn't they discontinue Monster? I'm talking about the manga, and that was definitely finished. I haven't watched every adaptation of manga that is out there, so I couldn't speak to all of that. What else? Fave modern Superman arc. It's got to be All-Star Superman. Fantastic. Fantastic. What do you think about Western comics with manga-inspired artwork? It all depends on the execution. I say that for everything. Like, anything's fair game to try, and some artists are really good at that, Others, it seems kind of forced. It's all in the execution. Right now, I'm not thinking of like a personal favorite, but I know that like when I was younger, like when Joe Madureira started on X-Men, that felt very fresh and new, and that was something like that really benefited the X-Men to a large degree. He ended up having a lot of imitators that were not really as strong as him, but yeah, nothing wrong with inspiration from manga. Oh, what am I thinking of? Modern artist, huge fan I am of him, definitely is inspired by some manga. Daniel Warren Johnson, like my favorite modern creator, I think. I just love what he's putting out, and I think that it is all exciting, but I think he's definitely influenced by both American comics and manga. Like, you take a look at how he stages action. Yeah, he's got to be influenced by guys like Otomo. There's no question. There's no question. Scott Pilgrim nailed Western comic with manga style. Yeah, there's you're right. There's a lot of manga influence there. Have I done an episode on Osamu Tezuka? Yes, I did a long time ago at this point. But I was in LA with a friend of mine, Jason Rodriguez, who and we did that episode together. So I sort of have a co-host for that episode, and we talk about Astro Boy, with a few references to some of the other stuff that he's created, like Buddha and Phoenix and stuff like that. But mostly we focus on the Astro Boy story. What was it called? The Greatest Robot. I forget what it was called. Something like that. The one that Pluto was based on. What do you think about the Swamp Thing run by Alan Moore, and is there a possibility for an episode about it? I thought it was fantastic. There's definitely a possibility for an episode about it. Anything that like made a huge impact in comics is all fair game. It would probably be weird if I never did an episode about it. So yeah, like I think at some point that's definitely a very likely possibility. Are Mega Man comics any good? Beats me. I remember Shogun Warriors, but I wasn't really reading comics at the age that was out. I was a little too young. I was just a little too young. I mean, I could have easily been, but I wasn't. Alan Moore is very good, no question there. He's definitely comic book royalty, in my opinion. That's an interesting question. Who do you think these days counts as comic book royalty? People whose contributions to the genre, well, not the genre, the medium of comics are such that they should always be afforded a certain measure of respect, even if they've done some bad stuff or said some weird stuff. Like, what they've done for comics is such that we should consider them comic book royalty. For instance, no matter how you feel about them, I think that like somebody like Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, Siegel and Schuster, Bob Kane, Jerry Robinson, Bill Finger, these are all people that I think, should be considered comic book royalty. But who's still alive that should be considered comic book royalty? I definitely think Alan Moore would be towards the top of that list out of people that are alive right now. Thank you so much for the super chat from that F.E. Lord who dies halfway through his own game. I stumbled on your channel recently, and I'm currently going through your videos now. I just wanted to show you my appreciation. Well, thank you very much. Certainly appreciate it. Jack Kirby's actually passed away, Iron Shell. Todd McFarlane, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he did do a lot, like, in the founding of Image. I think almost all the Image founders could be considered royalty at this point. Grant Morrison, probably. Moore, Miller, Frank Miller, yeah. Remender? Maybe not like a first-round draft choice, but I love him. Bill Watterson? Yeah. John Byrne? Maybe. Harvey Pekar did do a lot. Harvey Pekar should definitely be considered. Neil Adams and Jeanette Kahn are good choices. Jim Lee is a great choice. I think that like anyone who's still like on an active monthly comic today should probably be like thought of down the road for inducting into royalty. I'm talking about like guys that are definitely still alive, maybe not as active today as they had been in the past. Is sort of my thought process there. It's almost like who do you induct into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right? You want them to still be alive, but retired to a degree. They might still be active. Hergé, Art Adams, R. Crumb. R. Crumb probably makes sense. John Romita. Yeah, John Romita. John Romita would be in there. He definitely would have to be. Otomo. Yeah, you're right. Katsuhiro Otomo would be in there. He's done enough. Yeah, still alive. Still alive is one thing. And then, like, they've had significant contributions. Yeah, that's true. Eastman and Laird, they did a ton. So I think anybody that's not just done good work, but good work that has changed comics in some way. Either they created something that was so influential that other people tried to emulate it, created sort of their own subgenre or style, or got noticed by mainstream reviewers and audiences, changed how comics were published or moved them into new marketplaces, things like that. A lot of interesting suggestions, and don't necessarily disagree with any of them. Just trying to come up with like sort of a scenario where we think of who out there in comics we should really be appreciating while we still have them, and potentially being able to thank them for their contributions to the field. Frank Miller. I think that Frank Miller. Yeah, I definitely do not think Ethan Van Sciver would be in there, but maybe his brother. I certainly love Noah Van Sciver's work. I would consider him. Jim Shooter? Yeah, maybe so. Maybe. He definitely changed Marvel a lot. Jerry Conway. Jerry Conway did a lot. I don't know Fred Perry. That's the first name I've seen that I don't know. Anyway. Glad to see so many people jump on that topic and give it some thought. Maybe we should find ways to reach out to these creators and let them know that we appreciate their contributions. Jim Starlin? Yeah, maybe. Paul Levitz. Akira Toriyama? That makes a lot of sense. Let's see. Thank you for the super chat. Can there be a synergy as perfect as Hama's G.I. Joe, Sunbow series, and the toys on the shelves in the 80s? It's a good point. That is a fine point. All three things sort of helped one another for a good while. For a toy line, that definitely lasted longer than most toy lines do. Most toy lines only last about 2 to 3 years, if they're even successful. G.I. Joe definitely surpassed that. I'm a fan of G.I. Joe. I'm definitely a fan. The interview I would like to have the most, if I'm being completely honest right now, it would be Larry Hama. He knew and knows so many people that have worked in comics for so long that I would really love to bend his ear for a while. And but I also wouldn't want to annoy him. Anyway, his recent I, Wolverine book was very, very entertaining. Yeah, Junji Ito is still working. Well, thanks, Simeon. Appreciate the compliment. It's been a tough year with no real movies and very little in the way of like TV. But I will say it's resulted in less distractions, and I've focused probably more on reading comics than I have in other recent years. I'm serious. I've been reading a lot of comics, more than I have enough time to cover on the show. You know. It's been a good year for reading comics, both back issues and discovering newer stuff that I didn't know about before. Let's see. The Boys Season 2 was outstanding. Man, I personally agree. I loved Season 2 of The Boys. I think I heard a few complaints from different people, that they weren't too into it, but I loved it. For me, I thought it was better than the comic. I think it was an improvement. But I also, I think that their ambitions and their goals are very different, even though they're using the same sort of base idea. The Boys was out there to satirize superheroes. It was just to make fun of superheroes. But like the TV show is definitely talking more about the problems with capitalism. It's not to say that it's the wrong thing, but that there are problems with it, and I think that that's sort of more the show's angle. And I think that it uses the story of superheroes and the pharmaceutical company that's created them to great effect. I'm a fan anyway. Whoops, I missed a super chat. Let's see. What are some colorists that you think go majorly underappreciated? That's a great question, Dan. It really is. That's a strong question because I would say in general almost all colorists aren't appreciated. And if we start to try to think of some of the best ones, we're going to be naming the people that get nominated for the Eisner Award and stuff like that, and that are at the top of their game. there are some that are like sort of in the back of my mind that but I'm having trouble thinking of their names right now. I've always been bad at remembering names. I've always been bad at them. There is a female artist that worked at the DC throughout like a lot of the 80s, and she did Swamp Thing among others, and her name all of a sudden is eluding me, and I feel terrible about it. But I think of her as like somebody that's definitely underappreciated for what she did. A lot of female colorists actually get sort of underappreciated from back. I think Marie Severin, if she's remembered, she's definitely remembered as being, the artist on Hulk. But she did a lot of great coloring on EC horror comics, for instance. So, yeah. I don't mind that staggered release thing on The Boys and The Mandalorian. It's like I do want to see it all at once, but at the same time, I appreciate that. Like, I don't mind a weekly schedule for a TV show. I really don't. And then I can always binge and catch up on the whole thing at some later date. So personally, I'm fine with that. Oh yeah, Giancarlo Esposito has been around a long time, man. He certainly came into recognition and appreciation with his role as Gus Fring on Breaking Bad. Justly deserved. He was fantastic on Breaking Bad. Fantastic. What a character. What a character. But he's been around doing some great things for a long time. I think because he's been like a working actor for so long, I think I've seen him at a convention once or twice. He seems to really appreciate this opportunity to work on Star Wars and The Boys and stuff like that. He seems to really appreciate it, which is awesome. I would definitely consider doing a Popeye episode. I think EC Cigar is hugely influential, and yeah. What do I think of the changes in the Oscars? I'm not up to date. I don't know what the changes are. Sorry. Laura Allred, yeah, she's very good. Oh, thank you, James Stewart. Tatiana Wood, that is the colorist I was thinking of to answer. I think it was Dan's question. Tatiana Wood is somebody that I think is underrated. If you look up her work, I think she was quite talented. What is Phoenix Jones up to these days? I don't talk to him regularly, so I can't really speak to that. I will say, he seems to be getting out there again a bit as Phoenix Jones, so he's trying to sort of do his part to keep protests from getting too out of control. I've said on this before that someday, I don't know when, but someday I would like to make a comic book about my time as a real life superhero, patrolling and getting in fights and breaking up things and trying to help people with Phoenix Jones. That was an interesting time. I'll definitely say that. I came to the conclusion that while we may help a little bit, like it wasn't making the impact that in my mind I thought it would. I thought that like people actually going out there in superhero costumes and legit helping people would potentially inspire other people and like lead to a groundswell of people treating other people well. I thought that it was worth a try. So I don't regret that at all. But do I think it actually like inspired anyone? Not really. Not the same way as like, simply donating money to a homeless shelter or something like that. That also inspires people. Just doing kind things. They don't need a person in a superhero costume to do that. You can still do good things. What was my soup name? Omega. Yeah. So yeah, I was Omega like for about a year, running around. For people who haven't heard before, I'll recap a little bit of that time, since we're just sort of doing this live stream and just having fun. When I moved here to Seattle almost 7 years ago now, I didn't know anybody out here. I moved here for work. It was a great job, but I didn't really know anybody, with the one exception of I had interviewed Phoenix Jones before for a website I wrote for. And so he was one of the very few people I knew, and he invited me to hang out, and I had gone on a patrol with him as sort of essentially a reporter about a year before. And where he was the only person I really knew here, I was like, what the heck, I'm gonna try to do this. At the time, I was in much better shape than I am now as well. I'll just mention that. I had been, for several years, doing at least 2 hours of working out every single day. I used to do the insanity workout every single day at work in my company gym for lunch. And then I would work with a personal trainer at night. And I was also taking Krav Maga a few nights a week. In my opinion, I think I was in pretty good shape at the time. Not perfect. I wasn't like an MMA fighter like Phoenix Jones is, But I'd taken, several years of Krav Maga, and I worked out a lot, so I had good stamina, and I felt like, yeah, I can run around with a bunch of weight, and I can carry people if I have to, things like that. So I don't know the full story of what Phoenix Jones got busted for Batman 2020. I don't know. So I was thank you, The Art of Michael Avon Oming. That's a kind compliment. And thank you, Aldi, for asking. I'm doing okay. I'm not doing great, but I'm doing okay. By the way, I'm a fan of The Art of Michael Avon Oming as well. So cool name. He's a very talented guy. Yeah, I was living out a Christopher Nolan adaptation of The Tick. It was a weird time. It was a weird time, but I was going out many nights a week from about 11 till 2, sort of patrolling the city and stopping up drunken bar fights, helping people that had gotten lost get home, chasing down drunk drivers, helping administer first aid. So many crazy things. So many. And so I think it would make an interesting comic book, because there's sort of that there really was action, there was fight scenes and car chases and stuff. There really was. There was dealing with the police a lot. It was weird. It was weird. But eventually over time I just came to realize that I think that the other people that were doing it were there for reasons they wanted attention, or some of them I think really just wanted to get into fights and potentially hurt people and have an excuse to do it. And I didn't like that at all. That YouTube doc that you're talking about actually used some of my artwork for the thumbnail without asking. I had every right to maybe claim that or take it down or something like that, but I don't want to cause trouble for other people. I don't. So I just asked that they just put a credit in for me, and they did. But yeah, that uses my hand-drawn artwork. Krav Maga is no joke. Krav Maga was definitely very challenging and definitely helped me get in pretty good shape. Whenever you would go to test into a different level, the first thing they would make you do is just work out hardcore for between 2 to 3 hours, and then you would test, because they wanted to be sure that you could do all the moves when you were really close to exhaustion, since in a real fight you get winded very fast. And that was the toughest part, not like really learning the stuff, but like being able to do it under extreme exhaustion. So anyway, kind of like the Watchmen before Dr. Manhattan. As a comic and tattoo artist, I have to correct you. There are reasons to get a bad tattoo. There are reasons to? Okay. Looks like Neo Tokyo's menu, but better. Congrats for your channel from Brazil. Obrigado. I was giving some serious thought to going down to Brazil this year to go to the big Comic-Con that they have there, but obviously COVID changed all of that, so that's too bad. But I hope to go down to Brazil someday. Brazil, Argentina, Peru, I'd love to visit all of those. There's a lot of places in South America I really hope I get the chance to travel to before I die. I love traveling. I encourage you to take a look at the 40-minute long documentary about Tezuka. His life was crazy. Well, I've read a lot about Osamu Tezuka, but I'm never against learning more. So I'll definitely take a look. That sounds interesting. His life was crazy, but what a hugely influential pioneer, you know. Call him the godfather of manga, and I think that's a very apropos title. He's just so good. He just makes it look easy too. I think that some of the best artists, that's the thing. You're like, you go, well, I could do that because it doesn't look that hard, but that's what great artists can do, is make it look easy. They find a way to make it look simple and understandable. CCP in Sao Paulo. I hope I can come next year. I hope I can. I would like to go to CCP in 2021. Yeah. CCXP, sorry. The only thing I'm intimidated about is I don't speak Portuguese, so that's a little intimidating. But, you know, whatever. I like going to new places. Even if I don't speak the language, I can figure it out usually. What kind of pens do you use? When I'm just doodling like this, I tend to like using brush pens, and I like the Pigma brand by Sakura. And then I sometimes have some technical pens as well. Brazuca ta em todo lugar. I don't know what that means. I wish I did. I don't. I've never felt like I was great at other languages. It's always been a challenge for me. I speak a little bit of Spanish. It's hard for me, but I speak a little, and I'm trying to learn Japanese. But I'm very slow. My learning of another language, I'm very slow. I want to learn. I want to be able to communicate with other people. I just find it very hard. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just learning too late in life. But I won't stop. I'm going to try. I'll do my best. Brazil is difficult because it's hard to find people who speak any English down there. Well, we'll see. I haven't been to an art live stream for the longest time. Well, thank you for joining me. Anyone who's great at what they do can make it look easy. Well, I guess that's what we pay them for, right? I think that it's... I'm thinking for a second. I think Sergio Aragones has a story of, like, a fan asked him for, like, a commission. It was a certain price. They agreed to it. Sergio, like, did the commission very quickly in front of them. And the person's like, that's what I'm paying, like, all this money for? Like, that didn't take you long at all. And he goes, you're paying me for the years it took me to learn how to do it this fast. And I like that. Brazilian surfers speak a lot of English. All right, so there we go. I'm just going to get everywhere on a surfboard. Just, I've got it. I'll buy a big bucket, put that on wheels, fill it with water, put the surfboard in it, stand on the surfboard. Now I can get around town. And surfers will go, "Yo, surfer, you speak English?" And I'll be like, "You know it." And that's how I will get around Brazil. Problem solved. I'm very smart. Just so you know, I'm very smart. Can't believe you draw. Well, I don't know if I draw well, but yeah, I love drawing. I just love it. I'm always trying to get better. I know how to order beer in 5 different languages. Nice. The only thing you need to do to go with that is learn how to ask for the bathroom. Donde es el baño? That el baño? I don't know. Go to the Adam West School of Surfboarding. Yes, I just need some rear projection, and that's good. By the way, you know what I came across the other day? Not the other day, but fairly recently, regarding Adam West. Conan O'Brien, before he hosted the Conan O'Brien talk shows, either late night or his current one. I think it was after SNL, but before he wrote for Simpsons. So it was in that early period. He wrote a pilot for a TV show with Robert Smigel, another comedian, the guy who does Triumph, the Insult Comic Dog. I think it was those two anyway. They wrote this hilarious pilot called Look Well, and it was about a sort of C-level actor who doesn't get a whole lot of work, so he supplements his income by teaching acting classes. And he did at one time have a somewhat successful TV show where he played a cop, and he was given an honorary medal by the local police, and he treats that like a real badge. And so he goes out and tries to solve crimes, and he's like, I do have, this honorary badge. And, hey, Chrissy. Let's see. I can't read what you wrote to me. I'm trying to. I can't read it, Chrissy. I'm sorry. I can't think that fast. Anyway, Adam West plays Look Well. And guess what? You can look it up on YouTube. Watch it for free. A 22-minute episode of a very funny show of Adam West forcing his students to help him solve crimes, as he dresses up in ridiculous outfits and fools absolutely no one, and just annoys the police as he insists that he's an honorary police officer. It's pretty funny, folks. Look Well. Yeah, Look Well. Another great thing that you can find on YouTube, a TV show that was never picked up, was one written by Rob Schraub and Dan Harmon, who I've done an episode about because they worked on Scud, or Rob created Scud the Disposable Assassin. And Dan would sometimes co-write those issues. They did a hilarious TV pilot that was never picked up, but you can find it on YouTube. It's amazing. It's called Heat, Vision, and Jack. So probably a bunch of you already know it and have seen it, but if you haven't, wow. I hope I've made your day, because watch Heat, Vision, and Jack. You're going to laugh a lot, in my opinion. And then watch Look Well. Both really, really funny shows by really funny people that just didn't get picked up, but are very, very good. A pilot for a Plastic Man cartoon. I didn't know that. Yeah, Heat, Vision, and Jack. So maybe I should wrap up here so that everybody can go watch Heat, Vision, and Jack, right? Is there a chance we will get an episode about David Lloyd? Yeah, that's a good idea. I hadn't really given any thought to that yet, but it's a great idea. So there's certainly a chance. Team Coco. Absolutely. Konbanwa. Konbanwa. Yes. It is getting late. Tell you what, folks. Give me one moment here. I'm going to feed my cat. My cat is right. Can you even see him? No. I don't think you can see him. But Milo's here and he needs his dinner. Yep. See, he just meowed as soon as I got up because he's hungry. Here, I'm just going to give him a little cameo. All right, this is Milo, and it's his dinner time. It's a little past his dinner time, so give me just a moment because his food is just right over to the side, and I'm going to go feed him while you guys just wait for me to get back. I appreciate everybody's patience. The stream is not over yet. I'm just feeding my cat. Enjoy, buddy. A happy cat leads to a happy me. Here I come. I'm back. Yeah, so that was me feeding my cat Milo. He's getting to be an old man, but he's my buddy. Where was I? All right, let's just throw in some blacks anywhere there's black, and then maybe I can add like detail later. That's something I can veg out on, is just spotting a bunch of blacks. It's kind of fun. It's a good challenge. I've definitely thought of making a video about Alex Ross. Want to do a good job on that one, because I'm sure that, you know, there's some names that people are just going to, it's going to draw in more people. It's going to draw in a new audience, and you really want to make an episode that makes your point, but is also viewer friendly to a brand new audience. And certainly that could be one potentially. I mean, I always want to do a great job. Trust me. Certain episodes seem to require a little bit more planning so that I can get it right, at least in my mind. Yeah, I think this is already going to look a little better if I put in more black. Wow, from Canada, right? Cute Cat, love your content. Well, thank you. I love all of you. Alex Ross and Gouache. Yes. Isn't it interesting that there aren't more painters in comics in a way? You know? You'd think that there would be more people that love to paint that also love comics. And there are plenty. It's not like there's none. It's just, isn't it interesting that there aren't more? I don't know. It's interesting to me. Maybe that's a stupid observation, but I would have thought that more artists out there, like especially like modern surrealists or pop surrealists anyway, would be more interested in doing comics and stuff like that. I do see, now that I'm thinking of it, I do see like some pop surrealist artists at comic conventions from time to time. Like, for instance, Tara McPherson. She'll be at conventions. She's a good painter. Going to mention an episode on Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster losing creative control over Superman and the fight for royalties. The only reason I haven't really done something like that is I guess I feel like it's been so well documented already that, like, what would I be able to do as like a little YouTube show that, like, you know, like a documentary filmmaker hasn't somehow addressed. It's like why I haven't really done an episode on like Bill Finger. There's like an amazing documentary on Hulu about him, so I'm kind of like, well, wouldn't I just be reiterating some of the exact same information? You know, I don't want to bore anyone with just repeating the same stuff. So some things I'd really love to talk about, but I'm also like, I don't know how to get an angle on that hasn't already been discussed somewhere else in a more polished way on top of that. You know, I mean, everything on ComicTropes is 100% me. You know, I write it, I obviously record, perform it, and I edit it. I do it all. So it's a one-man show, and that just means I'm never really going to be able to get the full amount of polish that I would love to have. Like I find that I can't quite get there as just a one-man show. Even when I spend extra time, I can make improvements. I think I'm always like finding ways to do certain things better, but it's very hard to truly, like, make the show that would compete with something you would see on, like, a TV channel, for instance. Was Snake Eyes Dead game good? Was Snake Eyes Dead game good? Oh, Dead Game. Right. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Talked about it a little bit earlier. Sorry, no. Quite bad, actually. Still going, actually. Still going. It's not over. Kind of an incomprehensible story. If you like Rob Liefeld's artwork, then you might be able to enjoy it, but I will say that it's inconsistent art. Characters' uniforms and weapons will change from panel to panel, let alone page to page. So your mileage may vary, but no, I did not think it was very good. Wish it was, because I loved Liefeld as a kid, loved G.I. Joe still to this day, but no, not very good at all. Your nerdy love sets you apart. Is that for me? Probably does. Oh, thank you, Lasato. Yeah, so Lasato just said that they love my opening jokes, and I appreciate that. I haven't really felt that funny lately, so I figured rather than force it, I just have not always had an opening gag. So, sorry, I mean, if that's a big part of why you love the show, all I can say is, thank you. But I just haven't felt very funny lately, so haven't really been able to open with jokes. If I have a really good idea, I'll come back to it. Yeah, I've used ink brushes. I've got some here. Like, I've got, like, this bottle of ink, and where did I put it? I thought I just had a brush here with me. Oh, yeah, I do. Here's, like, at least a fine one. So I can do that. To do a good job, definitely gives you a great result. Takes a little longer. And so if I was doing this for, like, if I was actually hired, for instance, to do artwork, there's a great chance that I would use a brush, or brushes, I should say. But I'm mostly just sort of doing this for myself, and even if the result isn't as good, like, I'm still sort of practicing some of the same techniques in terms of, like, how I decide to feather and where I'm deciding to spot blacks and stuff. So, I guess all I can say is, my standards for what I do for fun are not quite the same as, like, what I would expect a professional artist to stay within. But I really enjoy drawing with these brushes. It's fast and it's fun. Was leaving Africa a mistake? I think leaving the ocean was a mistake. I think that was humanity's first big mistake. Should have just stayed in the ocean. Did you read that IDW has the rights to ROM Space Knight and have announced a new ongoing series? I did not read that. That said, I think in retrospect, a big part of why ROM was so much fun was probably Bill Mantlo. You know, sometimes it's not really, because there was no real character before he just sort of started going nuts and was allowed to do almost whatever he wanted. I don't think that there's, yeah, so anyway, I think that, like, sometimes it's a very specific creator that makes something what it is. And that's my suspicion anyway. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Why did Alan Moore and Frank Miller fall out? I don't know. What's your favorite Deadpool comic? I really like when I I really like what I've read, but don't know where to start. Well, I'll be honest. I'm not the world's biggest Deadpool fan. He can be amusing, but since I'm not the biggest fan, I have not read every Deadpool comic. It's just not my thing 100%. But I really did like the I was about to say modern run, but it isn't that modern. But the run that Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn were the writers and Tony Moore was the initial artist on. I think that was pretty fun, pretty good. So that's one I'd recommend looking into. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Favorite Hellboy arc? Oh, that's much more challenging because I love Hellboy. What was my favorite? You've stumped me. Kaylee. What is my favorite? That's so hard when you really like something. I don't know. Maybe the first. I don't know. Fave Harley Quinn besides Mad Love. Well, Harley Quinn isn't a character I've read a whole lot about. I mean, I guess I'd have to say the run with Palmiotti and Connor. I think that they did some great things with the character. That's about all I can really think of that I've taken notice of. You know, with superheroes, I'll come and go. I like a lot of these characters, but I feel I'm more interested in following creators than characters, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't always have the ability to make a comparison there with, like, you know, which is the best run with this character. I don't know, man. I haven't read them all for hardly any character. I just follow artists and stuff. What made me fall in love with comics? You know what it was? It was a small journey in rapid succession discovering a number of comics. I was young. I had a paper route. It gave me a lot of free spending money at the end of the week. And I would finish my paper route down, like, sort of near this town convenience store. One day I went in to get myself maybe a piece of candy or a drink or something like that, and I saw that there was a Transformers comic. I was young enough, like, I'm talking, like, I guess 5th grade. I was still sort of into Transformers. And so I was like, oh, cool, more Transformers story. And I got the comic, and it was okay. Like, you know, I hadn't really read much comics at that point, but it was okay. And so I went back the next week, and I didn't know that they came out monthly, but I think I found the issue from the month before maybe was still there, so I read that. And I wanted more, so I was like, okay, there's a G.I. Joe comic. I like G.I. Joe a fair amount too. I'll try that. The G.I. Joe comic was much better. Better art, better writing. And I was like, oh, cool, all right. Maybe I like G.I. Joe more, but I didn't know that it was the comic. And then the next week, I went back and I was like, well, okay, it doesn't look like there's any more G.I. Joe or Transformers in front, so, I guess I'll read one of these superheroes. I certainly am familiar with the superheroes from cartoons and stuff. I'll try this Spider-Man comic. And the Spider-Man comic I got was the first issue of Kraven's Last Hunt. Artwork by Mike Zeck. Story by J.M. DeMatteis. I was like, this is amazing. Wow, what a story. It felt so detailed and exciting, and I just had never seen a story like that with superheroes from cartoons before. I was like, this is amazing. And so that's what did it. I was like, I just kept trying more and more comics from that point. But that was what really did it, was that comic. Yeah. See you later. I know a bunch of people. It's pretty late. Do I think John Ostrander is a highly underrated? I don't know about highly underrated. He's had a good career. As far as like what he's done that I'm a big fan of, I would say his Suicide Squad run is probably what's going to be towards the top for me. I think he's pretty well respected for what he's done. So I don't know if I'd call him underrated. Have you ever read No Hero from Warren Ellis? No, I haven't. 1:38 p.m. in Japan. Yes, but on Tuesday? It's 1:38 p.m. Tuesday? I wish I could be there. I would prefer to be in Kanagawa. Very Clausian, as in Dan Klaus. I'll take it. Yeah, I guess I could see some of the roundness of the characters and stuff, so I could see that. $11.40 in Jersey. Would Werner Roth be counted as underaged? I don't know who that is. I don't know how old he is. 1:39 a.m. Thursday in Argentina. I don't know if that's quite right. 1:40 a.m. in Brazil. Underrated. Oh. Well, I still don't know who that person is, so I don't know if he is underrated or not. 4:40 a.m. in Scotland. Oh my God, Seed Hill, what are you doing up so early? Wow. We've got a real international coalition of people in our chat room. That's really, really cool. Thank you, everybody. That's fascinating. When I look at my YouTube metrics, the vast majority of my views come from America. No surprise there. But obviously, the people that are maybe a little more engaged and passionate about comics and stuff certainly come from all over, which is really exciting to realize that comics is such an artistic medium that crosses so many boundaries, that we can all appreciate this storytelling medium across different countries, ages, sex, political spectrum. I think it really speaks to the power of comics. I think comics are a very underrated medium. I think that they're very powerful since they're visual, but can have the benefit of thought out like writing and stuff like that. And I don't know, there's a lot to love about comics. There's a lot. I'm from Florida. I've just been living in Japan for the last 5 years or so. It's interesting. 12:41 a.m. in New Brunswick. Okay. Your ink work is awesome. I don't know about that, but thank you. Thank you. Let's see. 5:41 in New Zealand. New Zealand. So that was the trip that Chrissy and I were going to take before COVID hit. We were at least leaning strongly towards a trip to Australia and New Zealand. That fell apart. But hopefully someday I can get out there. Certainly saving myself a ton of money by not taking any of these trips this year. Haven't really spent money on much of anything this year. How about all of you? Are you, like, I know that, like, this is a tough time for everyone, but do you find that you're spending less money this year? I certainly do. I'm traveling less. I'm not going out to movies. I'm not going to concerts. I'm not spending much money. I've, like, personally been able to, like, massively pay down. Like, I used to have some credit card debt. I paid that all off. So I'm doing pretty well there personally, and I know that I'm in a fortunate position by that. But I'm curious, like, have anybody here, like, have you done any big spending, or do you find yourself spending less this year because there's less to potentially do? I'm curious. Yeah, the minutes are always the same all over the world. The hours, what changes? Romania, very nice. Spending less on food. Well, that's could be good. Spending less and making less. I spent too much on comics from eBay. Oh no. Let's see. Saved up perfectly this year. Okay. Paying for essentials like comics, yeah. Hey, it's my sister. Even though it's super late in the Boston area, Jean just jumped in. Buying lots on Amazon. Spending less on media and travel. Someone who's dealt with addiction, it's been somewhat of a spiral due to the isolation. Well, I can only offer my sympathies there. That's tough. Let's see. Have thought about doing an episode about comics or creators from a specific country? Well, yeah, I've done episodes before, like on international comics. I've done manga from, like, One Piece and Akira to Junji Ito. I've done European comics like Black Sad. I've done South American comics like the Eternaut. I definitely try to mix in some international comics. I'm currently getting ready to do some on. I've got a translated original Witcher comic from Poland that a friend helped me translate. I've got some Vietnamese comics that a friend is helping me translate. I've definitely got things that I want to do on, like, Hergé, various Argentinian creators. There's a lot of international comics that I'd love to discuss. I'm fascinated about areas where I don't know if they have comics or not. Like, I don't know if Russia. Does Russia have comic books, for instance? I don't know. That's something I'd love to know. I mean, they must on some level. They must at least have indie-type comics. But do they have, like, a huge scene there? Do they have comic book conventions? That's something I don't know. I'd like to talk about some of the, like, webtoon stuff that are hugely popular in South Korea. I think that would be time well spent for an episode. So there's lots of international comics that I want to discuss. There's lots. Yeah, I guess this is a pinup, Mitchell. Just drawing for fun. Russia has comics. I was stationed there. Russia does have comics, really. I've never. Yeah, India definitely has comics. I've seen some Indian comics. Um, I've read a bunch of Argentinian and Mexican comics. Yeah. Um, I have not. You never knew why that was a meme. The meme about in Russia blank does you comes from a 1980s stand-up comic that was here in America named Yakov Smirnov, and he would just go like, "What a country!" He would always talk about the differences between Soviet Russia and America, and sometimes he would like make this joke like, "In Russia, blank does you." So somehow that came back as a meme. Yeah, I should draw a multi-panel page sometime. You're totally right, James. That would be a great idea. What was I just thinking of? Yeah, I'd be fascinated what kind of comics Russia has. That's I've definitely never seen that. I've seen comics from a lot of different countries. I've never seen anything from Russia. Huh. Can you imagine what it would be like? Like, what would it be like, for instance, to be somebody who loves to draw and has like the drive to make, you know, stories like comics? I'm sure that occurs to people almost everywhere. But like, you know, in a more remote country like North Korea, Burma, you know, Zimbabwe. I'm very curious, like, what comics are like in some of those more remote places. Like, you know, there's got to be people that at least self-publish, self-print some comics there. But yeah. Yeah, I love Bernie Wrightson. Russia mostly imports. They love Dylan Dog. Okay. Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that it's a bunch of imports. There's a lot of countries that do that, like just sort of import stuff from sort of nearby. That would still, I think, inspire some young kids to want to do their own, though, you know? So I'd be very curious to see, like, you know, an original Russian comic. But I'm sure that there's very few that have been translated. So that's the trick. North Korea has an animation studio, I believe. Not exactly comics, but an art medium still. They do. In fact, there's some great comics that are autobiographical by a guy named Guy Delisle. Now, he is a Canadian, French-Canadian, who helped for many years run as a producer, various Canadian animation projects. And one time he was assigned to oversee the animation studio that was in North Korea. This Canadian animated TV show or something hired North Korea to animate it, and he was sent there for, like, you know, I don't know how many months or if it was a year, I can't remember right now, but he was sent to oversee it, and he lived there in North Korea, like a Westerner living and working in North Korea, and he made a comic book about it. And it is amazing. What a fascinating inside look at how a country like that, how it is to live there. It's called Pyongyang, because that's, you know, the capital, and that's where he was living. And if you like that, the great news is he's also done a number of other real-life autobiographical books from places, because he's lived in other remote areas, because his wife works for, like, I think it's the World Health Organization. So they've lived in they've lived in Burma, they've lived in Israel, or no, Palestine, I think. Yeah, in Palestine. Wow, great comics. Guy Delisle. And I really recommend Pyongyang. That's a fascinating comic, man. France is huge with comics. Bande dessinée, they call them. Huge. Tony Wong. Yeah, Mitchell. I've done an episode about Tony Wong. Tony Wong is sort of the Stan Lee of Hong Kong comics. He's done a lot. He's a big pitch man. He talks up his comics, and he's done a lot there. And what was I thinking? I did an episode about Tony Wong when I was in Hong Kong. I recorded an episode in Hong Kong about him. It's really interesting. I've seen The Guardians. It's pretty weird. What brand of pen do you use? Yeah, just using these Pigma brush pens by Sakura. They're just fun to doodle with. This is probably something that would look cooler colored than in black and white, because I'm really imagining a lot of these signs being sort of neon, you know, really lighting it up and reflecting off of each other. So would probably look a lot cooler colored, but I don't have time to both do this and color it. So right now I'm just doing this. Russia's big comic is called Major Grom. I'll look that up. I have not heard of that. That's really interesting to learn. But that's what I love talking about comics with you guys about, like to learn new things about comics. That's something I've wondered for quite a while about, like, you know, potential Russian comics. Wow, it's got to be. I would like to learn about that. Nice inks. Well, thanks. You guys are all kind. I'm lucky. I know that not everybody that has a YouTube channel has, like, you know, kind comments. And not to say that, like, I get nothing but kind comments. Like, trust me, there's some bad stuff if you ever look at the comments in a video. But obviously when I do live streams, it's really supportive. And I just want to say, like, that's why I can do them every once in a while, because I know I'm not going to just, like, have to fight or get defensive or anything. We can just talk comics and talk what's going on in the world without people fighting, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm really grateful. In Russia, we eat grape. We read grape. We watch grape. We love grape. Nigeria is big into comics. That's interesting. Yeah, you never hear about stuff like that, but I'm not surprised. I mean, comics have a low barrier to entry to make. Now, to distribute them, that can be the trick. You know, distributing and publishing, that's the trick. But making them is something obviously just one person with passion can do. And that's awesome that they can just get their ideas across this way. I'm sure the Caribbean has comics, yeah. I hope you're doing well. Just wanted to say your videos are helping me get through the pandemic, since my city just became the highest in COVID cases. Do you live in, like, Wisconsin or something? I know they're having a tough time. Bubble Comics. Okay. All right, Keith, thanks for being in here. How often do you intend to do live videos? I try to do, like, at least one a month, I guess. It's not like I've really got a schedule for something like this, because it's hard to commit to. I work a lot. My job requires me to work a lot of overtime. So I would say that, like, you know, my job, I work at least about 50 hours a week. It's not that bad, but, you know, I probably work like 50 hours a week. And then, you know, ComicTropes takes many hours to make an episode. So that takes up most of the rest of my time. So I don't usually have too much in terms of downtime, but sometimes I need a mental break from just working on the ComicTropes, and this is actually, for me, a break. You know, like, this is my downtime. Like, some people would call this work, but to me, this is just trying to get better at drawing and trying to have some fun. And yeah, I've always drawn. I wouldn't say that I'm that good, but I've always drawn. Where can I get foreign books from? Depends on what you're looking for, you know. You can get like a lot of Japanese and French comics at bookstores and comic book stores. Those aren't too hard to find. If you're talking more like, you know, some of the more obscure stuff like we're talking, well, that's the challenge. You have to know what you're looking for first, basically. I don't know of any bookstore that specializes in, you know, foreign comics specifically. But that would be interesting. That's probably a small market. Love and Rockets. Love and Rockets. James Stewart, thank you so much. That's really appreciated. I've definitely gotten a number of really generous little super chats here tonight. I don't know why I said little. Like, you know, what defines little? They're huge. Thank you. When are you going to do your sequel? Oh, when you do your sequel podcast, you're going to have to make Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo your first review. Well, I think what I'd want to do there, if I do this, is do just movies that have had tons of episodes, more than 3. And there have only been 2 Breakin' movies. So and I'd want to do them sort of like in order, more or less. Like maybe I'd pick like 2 to 3 series at a time and sort of alternate, just so that I'm not getting too burned out on any particular one, but go through in order. Like, you know, see all the Godzilla movies in order, all the James Bonds in order, so that I can like not just review them, but sort of like talk about how they're evolving and do sort of power rankings on, like, you know, what is the best music, what is the best main character, what is the best villain, and things like that. You know, I think that would be a lot of fun to do. It's something I'd love to do anyway. I know that I could stay passionate about that for a long time, but if I did it, I definitely need a co-host, and I can commit to something like that, but I need to make sure that, like, you know, if I talk to a friend, that they understand that what I'm thinking about would be a pretty big commitment, that like I'd want to do this for, you know, a few years, talking about, like, you know, a lot of different movies. So it's something I'd like to do someday. We'll see if I get to it. We'll see. And if I did, I'd probably just like put it up on Patreon or something like that. I don't know. I'd have to think about that part. Haven't really thought it through that much. Oh, Organic Soul Outreach has a nice super chat here too. Let's see. Keep doing what you're doing. You've been a great help from my PTSD, like I shared in my email. Wow. Seeing how you blessed everyone here had been awesome. Well, that's so nice. I don't know the big news of the Last Ronin comic from TMNT. I haven't read it yet. I'm really excited to read it. Eastman and Laird getting back together is like a blast from the past from my childhood. Ninja Turtles was one of the very first indie black and white comics that I discovered just as I was starting to learn about comics, and you know, I've been a pretty big fan of Ninja Turtles ever since, just because I did discover them at a pretty young age. Like, it must have been like 86 or 87, probably 86 when I discovered Ninja Turtles, and I love them. So the idea of the original creators teaming up again means a lot to me. I can't wait to read that comic. I should probably take a break. I mean, like, sort of end this sometime pretty soon, because I haven't had my dinner yet, and I'm starting to get a little bit lightheaded. I need to eat soon. I was bummed that Andy Kuhn had to leave Last Ronin. Oh, I didn't know about that, but I like Andy Kuhn as well. Like, he's very talented. I hope Andy's okay. I didn't hear about this, so this is like a little bit of a surprise for me right now. You go eat, son. I will soon. I will soon. Let me throw in a little more for inks, and then we'll probably call it a night soon. But I just sort of want it to just make a little more sense here, get a little more depth. Oh wow, another super chat. Let's see what this says. Hold on. Alex Rivera says you helped him with the pandemic. I'm only highlighting to show your positive vibes in the world. Well, that is nice to hear. You know, at the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is, you know, share my love of comics and hopefully introduce some people to some new stories, or have them be able to look at stories that they've seen before in a new light, so that, like, you know, fresh set of eyes. Sometimes that can be fun, or can at least make you feel connected, like, hey, this person saw what I saw and had a slightly different take on it. That's interesting. I don't know. That's why I like James Bond, I was saying earlier. And so sometimes I'll watch, like, you know, a video review or a podcast about the character, even though it's like, well, I know these movies by heart. Like, you know, they're probably not going to necessarily hit me with any trivia that I didn't know about, but it's still, like, rewarding to hear other people talk about something that you like. I hope. Sometimes, though, I do hit a point these days where I'm like, well, I love discussing and analyzing comics. I love it. I'll never get tired of it. But I do have my own ideas, you know? And it's like, maybe I should be putting my money where my mouth is, you know? As in, making some of my own comics more publicly available, so that, like, you know, other people can, like, say, like, all right, well, you know, he had some interesting opinions, but let's see, can he actually enact them? Or do his opinions actually work when put to the test? So, that's probably the first thing I would do if I found myself able to, like, you know, do more than just pay my bills. If I felt like I love when you do live streams so I can see you. I love hearing from you, Gene. It's awesome. I think one of the first things I do if I get some more money is not like, you know, I'm moving to Japan, or I'm going to get myself, you know, a new car. I'm not going to do that. What I'm probably going to do instead is hire an artist and try to pitch my comics. And if that doesn't work, you know, crowdfund or self-publish some of my own comics. So that's probably one of the next steps. I'm not stopping ComicTropes, but I'm saying that's probably one of the next steps for something you'd see from me is me, like, you know, making some of my own comics and putting my opinions and thoughts into practice, so that you can, like, say, hey, I don't want to be all talk. I want to make some comics. I've got some ideas. I love reviewing them. I think that there is value in that, but I do have some ideas for comics. Why are most comic artists right-handed? Are they? I wonder. Hey, Funko, thank you for asking. I'm doing okay. You know what? Let me just say, in my last episode, I opened up that, you know, I've been having a tough time. I've suffered from depression for years. That's nothing new. This has been an especially tough year with what's going on in the world, and just, you know, it's just tough. And I admitted at the very end of the last video that you know, I was fighting some depression, and that's basically why ComicTropes has been coming out a little slower than it used to. Is because, you know, I'm having a really hard time just sort of, like, keeping that in check. The depression, like the exhaustion. I'll keep going. But, so I just want to say, first of all, a lot of people reached out by email, by social media, like messages and stuff like that, all sorts of ways. And I just want to say it's appreciated. I'm doing fine. I am not in danger of hurting myself. I promise that. How am I doing? Not great. I'll be honest. I'm pretty down. But that's okay. That's okay. That's just sort of who I am, and it means a lot to me that so many people asked, or even shared their own stories of coping with tough times. It means a lot. Thank you all. Just know that I definitely read those messages. It meant a lot. I tried to respond to everything I saw. I hope I did, but I may have missed some. If I did, that is definitely not personal. Just if you're seeing this and you sent me a message and for some reason I didn't respond, I was not trying to ignore you. That is the last thing I'd want to do. I think I replied to everyone to let them know that, acknowledge, hey, thank you. So, not doing great, but, hanging in there. Self-care. Is there any comic book universe that isn't superheroes, like CrossGen was? Oh, yeah. I think, let's see, Oni and Dark Horse isn't all superheroes. These days, Image isn't all superheroes. They've got all sorts of stuff, then some of the newer publishers like Vault and who else? I don't know. There's all sorts of newer publishers. TKO, a lot of them are doing things other than just superheroes. Yeah, I'm on Twitter, CTropes, as in ComicTropes, and I'm on Instagram as ComicTropes. I think I'm on every social media channel, but don't, honestly, the only one that I use somewhat regularly is Twitter. A little bit Facebook, Instagram. I'm just pretty bad at remembering to put stuff there. So there's a few channels. If you look up ComicTropes, it's pretty easy to find. The best way to hear things is Patreon. Patreon/ComicTropes is usually the best way to hear what's up with me, because I try to at least do regular blog posts there about what's going on, what I'm working on, and give people extra content and stuff like that. So that's the best one. How to create a great hero. Give somebody a good characteristic, then give them a lot of conflict and some good flaws that they really have to overcome, and then come up with a story where the only way for them to really better themselves is to go through the ringer in a particular way to learn how to be that better person. Few likable elements, at least one serious flaw, and conflict. Mix, stir, repeat. Oh, look at this. Guillaume says, your channel calms me in this current chaos. I wish you more subs. Well, thank you. I really love the style in Dr. Slump from Akira Toriyama. Can someone learn through imitation, or it's a big no-no? I love studying style. I think you can definitely learn through imitation. There's no question you can learn. At a certain point, you have to be willing to embrace your own instincts. Imitation's a great place to start from. And inspiration can always come from outside sources. Inspiration all the time. Imitation's a good starting place. as long as you're also combining that with real life, whether that's writing or drawing. You got to go back to like real life so that there's like that element of truth and reality that people can connect with. There's got to be something real in there, and you've got to like start embracing your own instincts at a certain point. Because otherwise you're not going to like sort of develop your own style. But anyway, yeah, I think imitation's a good starting point for learning. I think everybody starts at imitation, honestly. I think everybody does. Do I like Community? I love Community, except for the season where Dan wasn't there. That one was a little rough to get through, and I like those actors, and one of the main cast members is a close personal friend of mine. So, you know, yes, I like Community, but I like Dan Harmon's thoughts on, you know, what a story needs in order to work. I'm not saying that everything he does is perfect, but in general, I really like what Dan does. I like his idea of the story circle. I think that it works, at least most of the time, and I think it gives you room to experiment. And that, like, I'm a big fan of structure. I think that, like, unless you have a very good reason not to, that you should, like, adhere to traditional story structures. Unless, as I say, you have a very good reason not to. Otherwise, don't be different for just the sake of being different. You have to have a good reason to. Otherwise, it's good to tell a story that ends with a happy ending. You know? If you're going to give somebody a bummer of an ending, there better be an important reason for that. It better give them something else to think about that's just as valid, because otherwise, people want to feel good when they finish a story. I do not know Chevy Chase. Jim Rash is my friend's cousin. Oh, well, that's cool. He's a really talented guy, like a funny, good writer. My friend is Ken Jeong. Chang on Community. Currently on many different reality shows. Been doing very well at it. Funny guy. Just one of the friendliest people you'll ever meet. Smart. Ken's great. Nothing bad to say about him. Give me one moment. Getting a text message. I just want to make sure everything's okay. That Earth looks like fiery. Thank you. Alright, so my sister just found an old photo of me as a very young kid, I guess pointing at like what I drew in paint. I'll share it. I don't know how well this will appear. Let's try to like see, there's a light there. Here, I'll do it like this. So that's me, super young. And all I've done is like some sort of a green paint splotch. There's really nothing to see there. On a piece of paper. My parents were happy enough to put it on the refrigerator for some reason. And I look very proud of this stain. I look very proud. I unjustifiably so. This is what most people would call a mess. Other people would just sort of go like, For some reason, my family seemed to like it, and no one more than me. So, yeah, great artist from day one, obviously. Look at me showing off that splash of paint. If I ever become famous and I die, maybe this would be worth a lot. But I'll tell you now, it shouldn't be. Don't buy this. That was nothing. I don't know what I thought I was drawing there, but I've always been interested in trying to make art. And I guess I got at least a certain amount of encouragement there. The 80s hair. Oh, dude. I think that's actually 70s at that point. I think that's actually 70s hair. Yeah. You always started at the bottom right corner. Oh, maybe. Maybe that is a thing for me. I don't know. Yeah. Sold. Give me 10. Yeah. Ooh. That was, I have not seen that picture maybe ever. But my sister is definitely the keeper of the family photos. So if I ever all of a sudden seem to have no money and my sister is living it up in the lap of luxury, folks, this is an easy crime to solve. She's blackmailing me. She has all the photos. She has all the photos. Bad News Bears hair. Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you, though, Gene. That was definitely entertaining to see. That was... I don't remember that at all. I don't know what it was supposed to be. How do you draw like me? Well, you could probably draw even better, honestly, Kung Fu Carrot. I would just say draw as often as you can. Just never stop. Just always have a sketchbook with you. And draw from life as much as possible. Just whenever you can, draw like any people or buildings or cars that you see around you, and I promise, no matter who you are and what skill level you're starting at, you will get better if you're drawing all the time. You just will. You just will. And it's fun, you know? I think drawing is fun. I'm not really trying to accomplish anything tonight other than just sort of muddle around and experiment and see where things go. I'm making a comic series and I'm splitting the story into seasons. Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah, actually it probably does sound like a good idea because you never know what'll connect with an audience, and you probably want like good breaking points in case you want to switch your focus somewhere. Let's see. Oh wow. I've been doing this for 2.5 hours. Let's see what time it is. Oh my goodness, it's 9:20 my time. Even though I'm having fun and I really want to sort of finish this, I also do need to eat. I need to feed my cat again. I give him 2 dinners so that he can digest it easily. So I'm gonna call this a decent enough breaking point. I had a lot of fun with everybody tonight. I just want you to know that it means a lot to me to have people here to chat with. Hopefully it's been rewarding on some level for you as well. You know, it's lonely times these days. We can't easily hang out with our friends, but at least we can still do some of this virtually. It meant a lot to me, and I think I'm going to call it there. Yeah, I don't need sleep quite yet, but I do need I need to eat. I need to feed the cat, and I need to do a little bit more work on ComicTropes actually before I go to bed. But this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. It means a lot to me to get to chat with all of you, and you know what? I just realized there was one piece here that I just can't resist filling in. I just realized. So I'm gonna leave soon, but I just need to fill in a certain area that I saw, and it's bothering me, and my mind won't let me stop unless I clean it up. It's this right here. Yeah, that's a little better, I think. That's a little better. You know what I'd love to do someday is like be able to do sort of a live stream with a real artist like drawing, you know, like a professional, and but like I'd be like there in person with them, so it'll be like after these times, but and like be able to ask specific questions about like technique and stuff. But maybe not just like one drawing, just like for like, 10 minutes or so, and then like, let them do something else and sort of go about their day and sort of follow them through that and sort of figure out like what their approach is. I think that's something I'd really, really like to do someday. All right, that's plenty, I guess. I got to stop somewhere, so I'll stop there. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to hit stop now, but it was great talking to everybody. I think I'm a very lucky guy to have such a wonderful follower base, and I will have a new ComicTropes up pretty soon. I don't know the exact day yet, but what's today? Like Monday? I hope to have it up before the end of the week. Okay? So keep your eye out, and more to come.